Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to talk to you about exam technique. I've put together 5 top tips that I would use and that I think is going to really help you in your exam. Now the thing about exams is not necessarily the people who are best at the subject do the best in the exam. Especially in maths, even if you're awesome at maths, you might struggle in an exam because your exam technique is not good enough. Now what you need to do then is sort out your exam technique. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on. I've split it into 5 tips. So let's go looking at the first one, which says plan out how you're going to use your time before the exam. You might not have heard that before. Now, the before is very important because it means you're going into the exam knowing a strategy, knowing exactly what you're going to do. Now, what I mean by this is you look at your exam, let's say Edexcel, GCSE, higher, and say the calculator paper, but it doesn't matter. You get 1 hour 45 mins, and you've got 100 marks. Now, obviously, you're going to be aiming for 100 marks, aren't you? Maybe, maybe not. Now, what you need to think is if you're just going to go straight into the exam, do the exam for the whole time, then 105 mins is how long you've got, and it's 100 marks, so that means that each mark you're going to have 105 divided by 100, which is 1.05 mins. So roughly a minute a mark. Now let's scrap that, because what I'm going to talk to you about today is not just walking straight into the exam and doing the questions. What I'm going to suggest you do is you walk in and you spend 5 minutes, that's not long, looking through the paper. Okay? Now we'll talk about that in another point because it's a whole separate tip. But 5 minutes you're going to look through the paper, so that means that you've got 1 hour 40 left, which means that you've got exactly 1 mark per min. Why have I written pin? Per min. Okay? Now, that means if you're on your exam, you've got your clock in front of you, you've got the clock in the front of the room, you're looking at it. If you're on a 4-mark question, guess what? You're going to aim to spend exactly 4 minutes on it. That's going to make sure that you're not missing anything out. Now, don't worry, I know some questions are horrible, especially if you're aiming for grade C. You're not going to be too worried about the A-star questions at the back in the grade A. So we'll talk about that a little more, but moving on for now to point number 2. Like we just said, read through the whole exam paper and make quick notes. When I say read through, what I mean is you're glancing through to see what is coming up. Now your brain is very clever. What it's going to do, if it sees a question like this, and you've been revising, okay, I don't know, 49 degrees, you're going to be thinking trigonometry. So you might write next to this question, SOHCAHTOA. That's only going to take a couple of seconds. You glance through the whole thing, okay, and then your brain is going to start figuring out the questions ahead of time. And do you know what's so good about this method? You know what's coming. Okay? I think it's quite scary to do this for the first time. But it's also quite scary to go into an exam and every time you turn over the page it's a surprise. So I recommend that you try this. And as a side top tip, try it in a mock first. Okay? Seriously, it's not the real exam. You don't have anything to lose. Try it in your mock. I think it'll work for you. It's only 5 minutes out of an hour and 45. Okay, and I'm definitely going to be advising all my students to do this. So you look through your exam, you make notes about each one, you turn back to the front of the paper, then you begin, and you've got 1 min per mark. Some you might do a bit faster, some you might do a bit slower. Okay, but on average, 1 minute per mark. Step 3. If there's a difficult question in particular, okay, what I want you to do is read through it at least 3 times. Questions are hard. You don't have to read it and be able to do it straight away. And what you need to do as you do it is underline key words. You might have in your exam a question that's, say, a paragraph long. You need to break it down. Get out the key points. Okay? Not all the information you're given is important. Get out the key points, what you're going to need to use. Take your time, stay calm, read it 3 times and think, okay, I've got it now. Might take more than 3 times. Might take 5 times until you can say, I know what to do, I've got a plan, let's get on with it. Okay? So, your aim here is to know what to do in the question. Number 4. If you're spending too long on a question, what I want you to do is move on. Okay? Just move on and come back to it. That's because sometimes people can waste so long on one question. And if you think it might be worth 3 marks, if you've spent 7 mins on it, you're wasting time. Okay? Don't waste precious time. It's not worth it for the 3 marks, because later on in the exam you might be able to pick up 3 other marks in less time. Now, what my point is about come back to it at the end, like I said, you might not be answering every single question. If there's a 5 marker at the end, and you don't want to answer it because you can't, you don't know what to do at all, just write something down maybe. Never leave a question blank. That could have been tip number 6, but I've said it now. Never leave a question blank. Write something down, okay? You might pick up some method marks or anything like that. So if you've got a hard 5 mark question you're leaving out, that gives you 5 minutes spare to go back to things like this 3 marker and really get to grips with it. This is about maximizing your potential in the exam, making sure you're using your time efficiently. Number 5. If you've got time at the end, and if you've done your exam perfectly, mark a minute, on average 5 minutes at the start to read through, you won't have time left. But if you have time left, go back and check all the answers. Now, when I say check, I've seen students go to a question and just read through their answer. Okay? I don't mean just read through an answer. So what do I mean then? What I mean is basically do it again. Okay? Read it again. Have you answered the question? You should check that at the end of each one you do. Have you answered what it wanted you to answer? Okay, that's very, very important. Just because you come to an end of your working out or your statement or whatever, doesn't mean that you've answered what it wanted you to answer. So check through all your answers at the end. Make sure you correct any mistakes that you might find. double check you're working out, not just reading through, glancing through. That's what we did at the start. Now we are properly checking, analysing what we did. Okay, is it right? They're my 5 top tips. You might have some more. If you've got some more, put them in the comments box. I hope this has been useful because it can be the difference between a grade. Regardless of your knowledge, knowing how to use exam technique can make a big difference. So, good luck in your tests, your exams, whatever you're doing. And I'm Achieve Maths. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.